Hey, welcome to the studio here. This is Petri. Thanks so much for stopping by. We're actually just about to start a new painting. So we're going to have a lot of fun today. We're going to start a new painting. And also, as a bonus, we have 300 videos that we have on this YouTube channel. You can go back and check all those out too. There's just great information, whether you're a new artist, if you're a little bit advanced, or if you've been doing watercolor a long time. There's a lot of great information there. So I hope you take advantage of it. We're all learning. I'm always learning. And if you are new here, please subscribe. Hit that subscribe button down below. This way you get alerted each week when our new video comes out. You'll be alerted that it's just been uploaded to YouTube and you can watch. And we'll have a fun time, all of us together, going forward and learning about watercolor. Let's all learn together and make better paintings and have a fun time. Okay, let's do our next video. Okay, now we're going to use one of our really interesting methods here for kind of, really focusing in on a subject. If we're working from photographs or from watercolor workbooks. So this is, I do this quite often, and I'll just I'll take a mat, a watercolor mat, and then sometimes I'll tape a piece of watercolor paper, maybe a scrap piece of watercolor paper that I have, and tape it on the back and make the window of the mat smaller. This one more of a squarish look to it. And then I'll just move it around, find where I think it looks best. Keep taking into consideration how I'm going to paint it. And so this is more of like a photographer that might zoom in on a subject. Usually a photographer will take a wider picture, and then they can always crop in on. So that's what we're doing here. We're cropping in on this subject matter. If we take it away, it's a lot of information, and then we crop in and we pick out what we feel is what we want to key in on, or what we want to paint or draw. So we'll do that. So now we're going to find that perfect spot we like. You're the artist. You pick out whatever spot you like. You could use the wider full mat and get more of the information in, or you can zoom in and do it like I did here. It works better if I added this piece of paper behind the mat and made the window smaller. So you get the idea that we're going to do that. Is we're going to kind of crop the photo to where we like it, the picture, the painting. Then I'll just tape it to my book with some really high quality watercolor tape. This happens to be Pro drafting tape. It's hard to find online. I was looking for it one night for like 2 hours trying to find it, and I could not. Sometimes it's at our local art stores here where I live. In any case, I just keep searching, and there's some other good tapes too out there that are really high quality. I think 3M makes some really great tapes as well, like drafting and drafting tape, as well as the masking tape, as they call it. Okay, so now we have this set up, and I'll set this across from me. And I just propped up my book here so it's not sitting in the paint, in the palette. And just a minor temporary blip here until we get the book set up over here. And we'll zoom out. Alright, that looks good. And we're just going to get a regular mechanical pencil, number 7. And maybe what I'll do is I'm still trying to get my book set up correctly here. It's having a problem. Alright, there it is better. And I'm going to just work from my, I take notes all the time with my watercolors and artwork. So here I'll start another page, and this one here will, you know, you could do this too as well. Like if you have a favorite video or two that you find you really like a lot, you can jot down the name of the video, the artist. You might say Chris Petri, flower painting, or whatever it is, and this way, you know, if you have a hard time finding it going back into YouTube, you can write it down. Or some of you, I know, you probably do some, you save your videos if you like them, like some of your favorites and whatever. But in any case, writing things down always helps too. So here, we'll just call this one, we'll key in on fresh, clean colors. So that'll be like the theme of our fresh, clean colors will be the theme of our painting today. And we'll just make a note of that in our notebook. Keep a little notebook for our notes, and we'll go back with our pencil here. And okay, now we're going to do the drawing, pencil drawing. I'll make a rectangle, and what I'll do is we'll do some tape on this too. Tape is always great. It really, when you're done with your exercises and your practice paintings and drawings, if you tape it off, it's great. When you remove the tape, it's like you almost have a framed painting. So let's do that. Let's put down some tape. This is good drafting tape. All right, now we had this painting squared, so let's make that more square like that. Okay, now we're going to do our contour drawing. So before we always say here on our channel, you'll always hear me say like a preliminary sketch is always good to do. It kind of helps you to lay out things, and so that before you go in and do your final contour drawing, you'll sort of have everything on the page the way you want to have it on your paper. So I'll do that here. I'm looking at my workbook painting across from me, and I'm seeing that the vase is about not quite halfway up to the middle of the page. So if I put a mark on my tape and say this is halfway, here's half and here's half the page, the middle center line of the page, the horizon line, or we could say, or the center, the halfway point. The vase is not quite to that halfway, so we're good there. We can do our, and it looks like the vase is 1/3 of the space equal from each side of the borders here. So if I look at this and say, okay, this is the vase here, it's 1/3, 1/3, and 1/3. So I'm using the pencil here to gauge. So you have 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. So there we have the third. And I'm just going to do a really light sketch. And then we'll do the approximate outline here of the flowers, and this we can really I'm going really light here. just so I can get the idea, the basic idea of and there's this looks like the back, like a table back here. So this is a nice line to have. This table line here makes it the painting feel like it's like just stable and connected to the bottom of the painting. And so we did a really super light sketch here. This might be good for some. Like for some of you, you might a preliminary sketch might be enough, and you're fine. You can start painting. That's good. I like pencil work myself. I like to see some pencil lines in the painting myself. So I'll do the contour drawing one more time over the top of this preliminary sketch, just so I have a little more pencil lines in my painting. So I'll contour draw this, and I'll try to get some of the shapes of the this is a glass vase, so here I'm just trying to capture some of those shapes in the glass vase of reflections and so forth that are happening and occurring. Contour drawing is just, if you can imagine, my eyesight when I'm doing this is just, I'm going back and forth, so I'm looking across from me over here on the table. So my eyesight, I'm just going back and forth as I'm drawing, going pretty slow, concentrating. It's very much a game of concentration when we're contour drawing. That's why I really don't talk a whole lot when I'm drawing contour drawing. I know a lot of times I do talk because I'm trying to describe what I'm doing. But here I'm trying to get a good result, so that means just I'm really being very focused on just looking back and forth. It's almost like a rhythmic thing. So it's like a rhythm. I'm looking back and forth. But I look at my drawing, I'm looking back at my painting, I'm looking back at my drawing. It's almost like a 1 second back and forth thing. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's like a rhythm. 1, 2. So my eyesight just keeps going back and forth like just rhythmically. 1, 2, and I just, as I go, I take my time. I'm looking, and what the fun thing about watercolor, contour drawing, is we don't have to get worried about what we're actually drawing, like getting stressed and saying, oh, am I drawing this flower correctly, or this vase correctly, or this shadow correctly, because really we're not focused on that. We're just focusing on what actual shapes are we seeing, what are the angles of those shapes, and what are those shapes that we're drawing, how are they relating to the other shapes around it, so that when we're contour drawing, if we see something that's a complete straight vertical line, then if we're drawing a shape next to it, we can kind of gauge how that next shape is going to look as we're drawing it, because we're saying, well, that's a straight line, and that looks like it's just a little bit on a little bit of an angle in regard to that straight vertical line. So really, contour drawing is just focusing in on the shapes, the curves, the lines, the scale of things. If I'm drawing the petals of a flower here in this drawing, and I'm drawing the center flower, you know, one petal of the flower is not going to be really large, and then the other one's really small. We're still looking at that flower in that drawing, so we are aware that that is a flower, and we're trying to keep it as close as possible to what we're seeing. But I guess that's not the whole idea of like contour drawing. Contour drawing is definitely, we're focusing in a lot on the angles and the curves and the shapes and the scale, you know, the scale of things. You know, what distance is this line from this center of the flower compared to the top of the page, or the top of the frame that we framed around our border. So that's really a lot of the contour drawing is kind of forces us to focus in on the real essence of what we're drawing, and not like kind of thinking too much in our memories of what we thought a flower looked like, or what we're thinking a vase looks like. And so if we can just remember, we're actually focusing in on the shapes, the angles of things, the scale, the size of things on the page compared to other things in here. And that's really the kind of the basic essence of contour drawing. And there we have it. We have a nice drawing. And now we can start our painting. And then here we're going to use our round brushes, and we'll have some fresh clean water. So I always start out fresh clean water, and then I might change my water if it's a larger painting. This is a smaller composition here, so I don't think I'll have to worry about changing the water. It'll stay pretty clean pretty much the whole painting. But you know, you change the water as you need to keep your water fresh and clean. Okay, and here we can start out. Maybe we'll start out with our greens, some olive green, sap green, olive green, cerulean blue, and I find this is very helpful if you're trying to get darks. Like we're doing some really dark, nice dark greens here. When we're doing darker tonal values, if you have some tissue, you can dry off the brush a little to take some water off it. Because if you rinse out your brush every couple seconds or so as you're working, it'll tend to make the brush really wet and the paint really wet. So as you go, if you just monitor the wetness of the brush, so you dry the brush off a little, then you can go in and grab some paint. A little bit of French ultramarine blue, just to darken that green up a little bit. And I'm working around these petals here. And I'm just constantly looking back and forth at the photograph in the book, the art book we're using. And I see a little bit of burnt umber here too. And so we just look at the colors and try to match what we're seeing in the picture. So here I'm going to go in with a little cadmium red, a little bit of alizarin crimson. So I have some reds over here now that I'm going to try to start. And we're using fresh, clean color, as you can see. My palette was really absolutely clean when we started here. So we're going to make sure we don't have any old paint that from the day before that we were painting or last week or whatever. And that'll give us a really good effect of really fresh, clean color. And then we're going to, again, dry the brush off a little. And this way we can get a little lighter tonal values up here. And then if we want, we can go straight in, rinse our brush, dry our brush with the tissue, and then if we want to add some darker, pure color, right there we go in with some pure alizarin crimson. And then here, if we want a little lighter look, and we let the paint, with watercolors, we let the paint do what it loves to do, mix, mingle. Now we'll work in some cadmium yellow. Some cadmium lemon yellow. More cadmium lemon yellow. Fresh, pure color. Right, we're going right into the palette. If that happens, that can be okay, but I would, here in this case, I would blot this up a little bit with the tissue. So this is a case where you have to monitor as you're going. If your paint is not dry here, then you have to maybe work over here on this side, section over here first. And we'll go with some burnt umber here for the center of the petal with some raw umber maybe. A little bit of yellow ochre. Then we can go in with some darker tonal value over here, just to change it up a little bit. And I'm constantly looking back and forth at my photograph that I'm working from in the book. And then I'll pick up my pace here a little bit now. We're kind of started. We see how we're working. We're making sure we're looking at the picture that we're working from, or the photograph, constantly. And there's another yellow flower here on the other side of the bouquet. And then we're going to do more, and we're following the picture. And again, if there's any kind of paint that starts to react, just blot it up a little bit. And we could go over that with some yellow. And okay, and then if we see a flower with it's narrow here, then we turn our brush here, and our brush strokes would be with the arrow, the narrow point of the brush, the point of the brush facing down. If we see there's a angular shape. And then we go back in and we get some of our cadmium, French ultramarine blue and some green. Then we can go in and get some interesting mixtures of a little bit of that yellow and green into that portion here. And then I'm going to start to do some more green here, sap green, olive green. And then some more burnt umber. A little bit of cerulean blue. And then here, more cerulean blue and green, so we'll do sap green, cerulean blue, and we'll do some stems in the jar. And more blue. And then we'll have that lemon that's in front here. It's a little suggestion of a lemon here. Adds a little bit of interest and color, kind of balancing the yellow of the flowers here. Then maybe a little mineral violet for some purple shadowing on the wall here. Just some quick indications of shadowing on the wall. And I would add in a little purple here and there. This is just something to add a little bit of the same color around the painting and not just have it in one location. That'll look much better. And then we can here's where we should take a break. Let's do that. Let's take a break here. I'm going to take the blow dryer and blow dry off this just a little bit. Let's do that. Okay, now we're actually perfect. That's a perfect time once we dry our painting a little bit with the blow dryer. Then we can do our finishing final touches to the painting, just to have a few details in there, and then it's going to be pretty good. I tend to underfinish my paintings, and I think it's a really good. I think it's just paintings look really good if they're just a little bit underdone versus like a little bit too much details and fine tuning at the end. So I use the blow dryer just to dry everything so that I can go in and do some final details, and it kind of will. It won't be a problem with colors and stuff bleeding and ballooning and things like that. So here I'm going to go in and some French ultramarine blue and burnt umber. Get a nice dark here, some burnt sienna. And we'll do the metal handle for the glass vase and jar. And maybe a little bit of cerulean blue. Actually, maybe let me think. Let me see. Let me use a little cobalt blue and mineral violet. And I'll try to just I'm trying to go around this the vase a little bit, just to make it appear a little bit like negative shape painting here. Just a little bit of color on the right side of this vase. And the same over here. And I'll mix around some of the colors a little bit, some yellow ochre with that alizarin crimson. Just for a little bit of color over here on the left side. And I blot up a little bit if it doesn't look great. I can, with too much color there, then I just blot up a little bit and leave this little bit here, which looks fine. And it kind of balances nice, the red over here with some of the alizarin crimson down here too. And we could even add a little bit here. Okay, that looks pretty good. Maybe a little French ultramarine blue. And then a little bit of green that I needed here. I noticed that I left out a little bit of the some of the green leaves over here, so I add some of those in. I add some straight paint. For some shadowing, a little bit of burnt umber. Just a little bit of shadowing to darken it up a little bit under certain areas to make those petals of the leaves look a little more like they're picking up some shadowing, some light and dark from the light. And then some straight alizarin crimson. Again, no problem. We lift that up a little bit if that's if we're having a problem with that blossoming a little bit. And here I'm just adding some more fresh, clean color, vibrant color here, just. And here and there we can do that just to give it some more exciting, vibrant color here. Put a little cadmium red here and there maybe. And a little bit of that shadowing. And that would be the final details. Maybe that lemon here, I could just add a little more yellow to that. Cadmium lemon yellow and then some cadmium yellow. And maybe just a couple lines for the tablecloth maybe. And maybe some variety of color in the stripes of the tablecloth. And again, this is about it. I think that's perfect as far as the details go. And that'll be perfect. And then we'll just we'll lift the tape off and kind of see how it looks when it's framed out nice with some white border of the paper. that looks really good. It's fresh, vibrant colors, fresh, clean colors. I kept my palette very organized with my colors. And this way they all stayed nice and fresh. And then I went in, and you can see I went in and used a lot of, just rinse my brush, tap a little bit of water off it, and right into the palette. Sometimes I didn't even go into my palette at all as far as the mixing areas. I went straight into my paint, right from rinsing the brush off, tap a little water off, right into the paint, fresh paint, as we were doing our final details. And I also did that with the darker darks, the greens, and some of the blues. And that's pretty much it. That's really a nice quick composition of some beautiful flowers and a vase, and kind of that feeling of summertime, beautiful flowers. And hope you enjoyed this. Please, if consider subscribing if you haven't subscribed at this point. Every week we create new videos, of course, and I hope you'll come back and try some more paintings with us here. And we're having a fun time always, and just enjoying the beautiful fun with watercolors. Okay, everyone, we'll have a great evening, a morning, afternoon, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye.